Hi again, and now the first part was all about when a product is defective or what is a defective product. But now we have to see how defective the product must be to support a cause of action. I mean, you're injured and you blame it on the product, and therefore you go to court because you want the judge to restore you in a place you were before you used the product. But then how defective must be the product to have a legal action under product liability? And the court uses two tests, and that really depends on the judge and also the states. And the test for dangerous products used by the court is behind the expectation of an ordinary consumer. Did the consumer expect it to use the product that way? Because if the expectation of the consumer is that he could stand on a chair to change a light bulb, then the product is defective. And the second test, which I find it interesting, especially with drugs and vaccinations and creams to get your wrinkles disappear and make you look younger, and on and on and on, is a less dangerous alternative was economically feasible for the manufacturer. Does the benefit of the design outweigh the risk of damage inherent in it? It's a risk-utility balancing test. So if there is a cream out there that removes pimples, for example, and I put the cream on my face, and instead of removing my pimples, it removes my skin, or next thing you know, I have rashes all over the skin that I have to have cosmetic surgery done now to remove the rashes. The court will say, okay, Diana, I'm sorry to hear that, but look how long or how much this cream is helping the reasonable people to get rid of the pimples. So it would be one of the things that the cream will still be on the market, even if I get hurt. Very, very interesting. In vaccination, the same thing. You know, some children are affected by some of the vaccination, and they have learning disability, and there's some studies that they might become even autistic because of all the vaccination they received the first 9 months in their life. And again, because it saves more children, that it hurts, the vaccination will still go on. Hypotheticals now that I want you to know that there are cases, but these are little hypotheticals that I just shared with you, how much a manufacturer may be liable because of strict liability or because of product liability. And this was against BIC, maker of handy disposable packet cigarette lighter. And no matter how often they changed the label, they always remained, or let's put it this way, they were always liable. When microscopic brass tailings are left in the lighter during the manufacturing process, they can cause afterburning and explosions when butane continues to leak after the lighter is shut. According to product liability law, the manufacturer must foresee misuse, and the need for warnings has to be clear. And if the warnings are not clear, that's why the person got hurt. In product liability cases, the court will award the plaintiff even punitive damages, because the legal reasoning behind this argument or this debate is that the best way to make sure that the corporation does not hurt people or does not put product in commerce so that the people will get hurt is by punish them. And the punitive damages, there is no formula. It differs from state to state. Sometimes it's more than 3-4 times the damages on the product. There's a case, BMW in New Jersey, $40,000, $4,000 damage. The court awarded all the way to the Supreme Court something like, I think was like $4 million on punitive damages. And when the federal court thought that there should be some kind of formula, the dissent judge says we have no authority to tell the state how much to award as a punitive damages. The bottom line is that when it comes to money, the state is liable. The state is the one that is responsible. So no federal court can tell the state what to do. I mean, that's Big Daddy. So That's interesting. So here's an example. A man with 0.35 alcohol, and you know that 0.1 already you're intoxicated. Content in his blood is killed in a kitchen fire. He is found with a ruptured Bic lighter in his shirt. Jury award plaintiff $1,300,000 in punitive damages. Another one is a woman is injured in a boat fire when her friend attempts to light a cigarette within seconds after fueling the boat from a dockside pump. Again, Bic was liable. Bic carry a warning to keep out of the hands of children. But plaintiffs question the adequacy of the warning to prevent inevitable attraction of children to fire, because children do not read warning. So in 1992, Bic redesigned its lighters to make them childproof. An unsupervised 4-year-old started a house fire while playing with a Bic lighter left on the table by the parent. Bic was liable. Now, how unsafe is a product? It's very interesting because remember there are two tests: behind the expectation of the ordinary consumer, and the other one is the utility risk, which it makes it very interesting, or risk your utility. The bottom line, really, if you remember of anything else, is if the alternative is cheaper than the injury, the manufacturer, whether the employer, whether the seller, whatever, will be liable if the alternative is cheaper than the injury. And your textbook can have this case, the Green case, 2001, very interesting. Linda Green began her career as a healthcare worker at St. Joseph Hospital in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1978. This is a case which makes it very interesting that while we're using the product, we don't know that the product causes side effect. And after studies in our science, hard science, we discovered that the product causes side effect. And this makes it very interesting. During the course of her employment, hospital rules require Green to wear protective gloves while attending patients. The gloves she wore, cornstarch powder latex, were made by Smith and Nephew, S&N company. Today, experts believe that some people become sensitized to latex through allergic reaction. In 1989, then, when Green was wearing almost 40 pairs of gloves per shift, the healthcare community was not generally aware that a person could develop latex allergies. We did not know any of this stuff. 5 years later, Green sued S&N. Her case rested not on negligence, but on a claim that S&N should be held strict liable for selling gloves that were unreasonably dangerous and defective. Strict liability because the company just is manufacturing a dangerous glove. That's really, in few words, what it says. And think of all the times we're wearing gloves, plastic gloves or gardening gloves or whatever it is. The jury found for Green, and the company, of course, appealed, which I find is sometimes very interesting because, and of course, the reasoning that the company does appeal, they feel like, if we give in to this case, then everybody that's going to have some rashes from wearing the gloves, we're going to have to, pay for their injuries. So read the case in your textbook and post the answer to the following questions. And this is where I really would like to hear your debates between you as a team or between you in a main topic of our discussion board. What test does the majority identify for determining whether a seller sold the product that is unreasonably dangerous and defective? And this is according to the Green case. What test did you see the court used? Was it behind the expectation of the ordinary consumer, or was it risk utility? What argument does the dissent make for abandoning that test? And now remember, the dissent is the judge that does not agree with the decision of the majority or the reasoning, where the concurring judge is the judge that agrees with the decision of the majority, but not the reasoning. It has a whole different reasoning why the court should decide as the majority. Is it fair to make legal liability hinge on the damage of a product could cause if that damage was not appreciated by either the buyer or the manufacturer at the time the product was made and used? Again, what is fairness? It depends on what? On economics and what? Values of the society at the time, the reasonable people. Is it fair to require an injured plaintiff to show that an alternative design would have been safer? You know, a different type of material for the gloves. And do you agree with the majority or the dissent? And of course, why or why not? And that's what the legal reasoning is all about. The value, again, of course, if you're going to argue from the right standpoint of the company or the individual. If the individual, it's very interesting. For the company, it will be a different kind, because the company also has rights under the Constitution. Are you going to make the decision, or you agree with the dissent or the majority from the consequences? What kind of society are we that we allow a company to continue to manufacture gloves that is affecting or is hurting some people that have allergies? A small group, I don't care how many, even if it is one person. And of course, if you arguing from the point of outcome oriented, it's very interesting as a nation, as a whole in the United States, since we increase our standard of living. And do we have the ability to think of another material so that nobody will get hurt by wearing some kind of gloves to help other patients? Thank you.